today's episode of Can Sean Deliver on a ludicrous clickbaity guitar title, we're going to talk about the two most important notes in music, all right? More than just actual notes, it's more of an interval, all right? And the interval is a minor third. So today's lesson is going to go kind of deep. We're going to use some popular, pop culture rock type stuff. Like, I know you know this riff. I know that you know this riff. Everybody knows they all have one thing in common, and it's a minor third, all right? So what we're going to do is talk about minor thirds, how they're in major chords too, mind-blowing, and the whole thing is going to be sponsored by Sweetwater and this incredible Line 6 HX Stomp multi-effects pedal that I have here, right? And so we'll talk about this later, but I want to talk about what a minor third is. Basically, it's 3 frets. That's all you need to know. You have a root note, and then 3 frets higher, you have a minor third, okay? I'm sure you've probably seen the minor pentatonic scale, right? Or the minor scale. All that means is it's the third note, really, in the minor scale. So A, B, C. A to C. That's a minor third. Now, the funny thing is, I didn't realize this until I started playing forever, is the distance from here to here on one string is the same as here to here on another string. So 3 frets higher on one string, or down a string 2 frets back. And this right here, I think, is the most important interval, because we're going to do a bunch of examples of how this works. But for instance, let's put a little distortion on it and then do the... Okay, you can take that distortion on and off with this pedal over here. But I'm going to slide into a note and then play the minor third, okay? Now, if you've ever used the pentatonic scale, you probably practice them first in positions like this. If you've watched my videos, you know that I think it's way more important to do it contextually with the chords. So let's start with just A minor, all right? This is our chord. A minor. We could do it bar chord. We could do it A minor 7. Again, you probably know open A, 2D, 2G, 1B, open E, like that. But let's talk about where a minor third is. It's just that distance. We can start with the root note A and go A to C. So right now we can just dance around this A minor chord, just going back and forth, adding a low C, like. And again, that already adds a little bit of vibe, a little bit of sauce. Get that spicy A minor chord right there, just by adding the minor third that is already in the chord, right? Because if we look at the notes, we have an open A, 2 on the D string is an E, 2 on the G string is another A. Our first C is right here on that first fret of the B string. But if we kind of get that open A to 3A vibe right there, it's the same thing as right there, okay? So I want you to start making this connection and start looking out for this, where it's just 3 frets higher or 2 frets back down a string, okay? Make that connection, because you'll see this all over rock music. Like I said, the Purple Haze, Jimi Hendrix, it starts out with that little slide into the minor third. So many great songs, so many great riffs, they start with that slide. And it doesn't even have to be a minor chord. It doesn't have to be a major chord. It works in either, all right? So what I mean by that, let's go from A minor really quickly to C major. All right, now the notes in a C major chord are C, E, and G. All right, if we start with the C, the 3rd fret on the A string, we can go to the next E, which is just down a string 1 fret back. That's a major third, right? Still sounds great, but doesn't sound like rock music, right? It's too happy. If we flatten that, we get a minor third, but that'll change it from a C major to a C minor chord. Now here's the beauty of the minor third, right? Is, all right, the distance from C to E we just established was a major third. The distance from E to G in that same chord is a minor third. So I think the most important thing is to start thinking of minor thirds as not something that is associated with a minor chord, but it's something you can use anywhere, because there is a minor third interval in every major chord, and that's the distance between the 3rd note in the scale and the 5th note in the scale. So in C, E, G, C major's case, the distance between that E and a G E, G is right there, right? So we always think of this as like open 3, 5, open 3, 6, 5. In fact, the first riff you've probably learned is probably just a root note and it's minor third, but that also exists in a major chord. Hopefully that makes sense, right? So again, E to G, you can think of this as like a C major chord, right? Like let's start playing a C chord. And it's like, oh, that's something that you could do in any C major chord context, is just opening up that E string and then hitting that G string. A. So it's like that vibe you can add to a major or a minor chord. Or like in, you know, Zeppelin's case, let's turn that distortion on again and then get a... We're actually kind of sliding to a B, to a D, and then getting like an E minor, okay? Or in Purple Haze's case, we're sliding into the 9th fret of the D string, and then getting that minor third, and we're leading our way back to different chords, right? So start thinking about these just contextually. And then I think the most important, or what I thought was the most important way that I started putting this together as like a puzzle piece, was thinking of like this, right? Stacking minor thirds on top of each other. And that's what's really great about the minor pentatonic scale, kind of bringing all these things together, is we can start with the A and get its minor third, right? So we're thinking clearly in A minor, A, C, and then let's go into the next two notes from A minor pentatonic, A, C, D, E. Let's go from D, or E, to its minor third, right here, G. So we've got a minor third to another minor third, and then the root note, right? So once we start stacking them together, it's like we can start kind of playing more fluidly, right? And even starting from this low A to this higher A on the 7th fret of the D string. So it's 5E, 3A, 7A, 5D, and then we can start over here. All right, now once I get from the G string, the minor third changes because the B string is tuned. We're gonna talk more about that, but I wanna talk about this line 6 pedal that Sweetwater sent me. Again, Sweetwater is such a huge sponsor of my channel. If you guys ever order any music gear, please consider doing it through my Sweetwater affiliate link, because more than just me getting like a small percentage of the sale that doesn't cost you anything extra, it also lets Sweetwater know that people are watching my videos and still buying stuff, which is huge for me. I love this HX Stomp XL pedal. First, because it's white and it looks cool, and it essentially takes the place of an entire pedal board, and the way that it's laid out is really great. So I've been a huge fan of this D'Angelico Hollowbody ever since I got it. But the one thing that kind of stinks about it is this. I don't know if you can hear it through the microphones, but you know, it's like a single coil pickup that is actually kind of noisy, and the buzz from the amp drives me crazy. Now, the cool thing about the way this is set up is all of these switches, you can even hear the electrical grounding issues I have in this room. Until I just hit this. Noise gate, and a perfect noise gate. Now it just sounds amazing, right? Noise gates are so important, and it's just a feature that you could have to really easily set up on this pedal, right? All of these 6 switches here are different pedals, okay? So for example, like if you can use these as like page down and ups and kind of do banks. I like just setting up as a pedal board where these are 6 pedals. So for instance, if this is my, this is my clean sound, I'll disengage all of them. First thing I want to do is compress it, which is great, that adds noise. Let's get rid of that noise, okay? Gate it. Maybe I want to add some distortion. Turn that on and off. Add some reverb. Get those minor thirds in there. Maybe I want to have a delay on here. Put the distortion back on. maybe I want to have a chorus right here. And again, all that stuff is just so easily done with this multi-effects pedal. You can change these to pretty much any effect that you could ever think of. Stereo in, out. There's just an actual cool headphone jack output that is an actual true 1/4 inch thing. Amazing. Super innovative design. You can pretty easily save all these different presets. Huge fan of this. Replaces the entire pedal board, and the form factor is great. Even though it's a Stomp XL, I think it's like the perfect size for something like this. So thank you to Sweetwater and Line 6 for sending this over. Let's talk more about minor thirds and how we can use them in music. All right. One thing that's like really kind of prevalent in my own playing is if I'm playing like a bar chord, like let's say I'm doing like a G major chord type thing like this, I'll riff in between the chords. All right. So a lot of times I think minor thirds are perfect for riffing. So I'm going to do something where I'm just playing between G and C, major 7 or something like that. So just a 1 to a 4 chord. G is 1, G, A, B, C is 4. So 1, G. Maybe I'll do a riff here next time to the 4 chord. G. C. G. C. Maybe a D chord. C. G. Now, the riffs that I were doing there are so heavy on minor thirds, even though that was a very traditional 1-4-5 major chord pattern that I was just playing that was really just G, C, and D. Because anytime you have a major chord, think of where your root note is, and then that's how you can kind of play those chord tones in there. Again, a major third would be 4 frets higher, so 3rd fret to the 7th fret. But that 7th fret to the 5th fret is that minor third interval that we've been talking about the entire time. And there's something so just satisfying about guitar specifically where you slide into it and then hit the next note. Right? Just like that. So G chord, slide, minor third, C. You can even do like... There's no way to make it sound bad. Minor thirds sound great in major chords and minor chords. And if you think of this as like, all right, I'm thinking of this as the major third in G and sliding to its either 5th from G, G, A, B, C, D. Or you could just really think of it as like, all right, now I'm going to start doing that trick where I stack minor thirds starting from the major third of G. Hopefully that made sense, but G. It's kind of like a cool sound, right? That ends up, it ends up on an A, which can lead you back to G instead of going that lower A, right? So it's kind of like just like leading you on a journey up through these stacked intervals. And once you just take one interval and start just kind of playing around with it, I think you'll have more of a taste for just intervals in general, right? Like a 6, like a major 6 is something that I think is really, really fun to play. Again, we'll take that same G pattern and then end right here on an E, right? So G, gonna slide into its major third and then do that little minor third trick, and then a whole step from there is a 6. So I'm really just going from a G to an E, which is very kind of like bluesy sounding if you just play it like that. But if you kind of incorporate that 6 from a riff standpoint, D, C, and it's like, you can do them. That's all you really need to know, right? You can't have fun just playing just those intervals. So sliding into that 6 is something that's really easy because it's always going to be in the same position no matter what chords you start on, no matter where you start on in general. And again, such a huge game changer for me, just kind of like thinking of intervals, because once you start thinking of single notes in intervals, then you can think of chords in intervals too. One thing that one of my favorite artists of all time, Elliott Smith, one thing that is very prevalent in his songwriting and something that makes him unique is he'll move major chords in minor thirds, right? What that means is like, all right, we know that G major is, if I'm in the key of G major, that major third is 4 frets higher. The minor third would be 3 frets higher. But again, I want a major chord. What if I just took a whole chord and I moved that 3 frets higher, you know? Again, I think I did a video on Elliott Smith's songwriting that like talks about this in more detail. I don't want to get too far into that because this video is going long enough as it is. But once you start moving entire shapes in intervals, I think you'll really kind of like open up the fretboard in a way that is like so easy to remember, because then it's just a pattern-based thing. And to me, it all starts with minor thirds, because that's usually like a lot of the famous riffs that we hear. They start in minor thirds, right? Or there's a minor third in there somewhere. I challenge you to find me a riff. Put in the comments if you can find a riff that doesn't include a minor third somewhere. So I think it's the perfect place to start. It's the perfect place to like really incorporate into all your playing. And then just to start recognizing them into chords, start adding them into your open chords. But definitely you don't want to do it without a line 6 HX XL, because it's just amazing, all the cool different features on this thing. If you want me to go into more detail about like how I'm using it, just let me know in the comments and I'll try to like do that. But definitely I appreciate Sweetwater and Line 6 for hooking it up. Please click that affiliate link if you're interested in getting anything at all. That link works for anything you're going to get on the website. And yeah, if you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, the website. I'll talk to y'all soon.